Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. Through my signature online coaching program, I teach women just like you how to ditch the body image issues, gain confidence, and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. Welcome back, everyone. I have been on a 2-week hiatus as we move to our new house, and things are just as messy and chaotic as you probably imagine them to be. I would love to know when I will wake up in the morning and not feel like I have been hit by a steamroller. Because that's kind of been how I have been feeling for the past month. And I know that moving on top of being 20 weeks pregnant is not helping the situation. So that's actually what I wanted to talk about with you guys today, because I'm always looking for the parallels in my life of the Irresistible You self-love journey and emotional weight and all the things. And moving into a new house is a lot like the self-love Irresistible You journey. And so I want to talk about that and kind of some of the parallels that I've seen. And I've had to kind of like set myself straight a couple times throughout this process, because this has been a process. So let's just start at the beginning. So for those of you that don't know, my husband and I, we sold our first home. So all this started back in April. So basically since April, and here's what's so funny. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead. When we have wanted to move for a very long time, and we finally decided, like, let's just see, because we didn't even know what the process was going to be like. So let me just start with that, because I think a lot of times you are hesitant to embark on the Irresistible You journey and this self-love journey. And for those of you that don't understand what I'm even talking about, the Irresistible You journey is what happens when you join my signature program. When you join my signature program, it is not a weight loss program. It is so much more than that. It is an emotional weight loss. It is confidence building. It is self-love. It is self-worth. It is all of the things that you are not getting from your traditional diets and that you are searching for through your diet. So in the Irresistible You journey, we go deeper. We go into, how do you break the rules that you're telling yourself? How do you gain confidence? How do you become and live the life that you have always craved, that you have always desired, but you're too, you have all these self-limiting beliefs and these things that you feel and think about yourself that are holding you back. So a lot of times, and I hear this in conversations that I have with some of you, that you're hesitant because you just don't know how that's going to work for you. You just don't know what to expect. You're scared. And you think if it's not another diet and it's not another, weight loss, like physical weight loss program that's focused on crazy diets and limitations and this and this and that, that's not going to work for you. And so you create this whole story about what it's going to be without even giving it a chance. And I think we were doing that with we had to sell before we could buy again. And for years, we had made up how complicated it would be. And, and we kind of have been through it the last couple years. Like, my husband was laid off from the military, and then I get laid off from my job. And we've just had these, very, very big ups and downs where it's like, all right, let's just keep it together for a little while, and then we'll try to figure this out later. So we just decided, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of being pregnant, now is the best time to get a new house. Which, interestingly enough, there was that fire under our ass, because our old house only had 3 bedrooms. We needed a 4th bedroom because with the baby on the way. And sometimes, in order for you to make change, drastic change, whether it's selling your home to buy a new home or enrolling in the Irresistible You program, you need that pressing issue. Even though you don't like the house, we didn't really like the neighborhood, we've wanted to move for years, there wasn't that nerve that was being pressed on that was like, you got to do this now or when, right? And so with the baby on the way in the middle of a pandemic, it kind of was that nerve that needed to be pressed, that we needed to take that action regardless of how complicated or messy or anything else it was going to be. So it was like, let's just figure out what this looks like. So once we started talking to our agent about, how do we go about selling and then buying, and how does it work, and transferring monies and blah, 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 all the crazy stuff, it was like the easiest, smoothest transaction I have ever experienced in my life. I mean, I think a lot of it is we had an amazing, amazing team, but the process was just so smooth and so easy, and nothing like we had built up in our heads. Nothing at all like we built up in our heads. So I think a lot of times, that was one of my first parallels, is that we create this story without knowing the truth, without giving it the chance that it deserves, without giving it the exploration and the curiosity that it needs to figure out, is this going to be for me or not? And so that was the first thing. And so one of the things I realized, I didn't realize as I was going through it, because when you're selling your house, for those of you that have sold your house, you know this, in order to get an offer quickly, you really need to depersonalize your home, as in take the family pictures down, the collages, anything that's very personal, because you want the potential buyer walking in and going, this could be our house, and not seeing your lovely, beautiful faces all over the walls. And when we started taking down family photos and just little clutter that you just don't like, the kids' toys and things, the dog's toy basket, her toys, all the things, because we wanted to get that clutter out of the house so that it could look much more open and showable. Okay. I didn't realize as we were packing those things up for getting the house ready to show, that was the last time it was going to be our home. That never dawned on me until a little bit later, where I was like, oh, because then once the house is ready to show, so we actually sold our house in a day and a half, which is absolutely insane. It's actually really common in the area that I live in. It's a very competitive market, which means it's actually very hard to buy a home, because by the time you see it, it may already have offers on it. So you have to, everything has to move at rapid fire. It is absolutely insane here. So we sold the house in a day and a half, and I didn't realize it as in this is no longer ours. Even though we still own it, this process of becoming and moving into the house that we really want, this is no longer ours, as in our personal items are, out of here. We're having to fix things like little minor fixing door hinges or things like that they wanted, fixed. And we're fixing things for a house that we no longer are really emotionally invested in, right? So that was very strange. So I've kind of been living in this chaos since May. It was since the very beginning of May. So almost 2 months that this was going on. And then when we had to show the house, I literally had to be out of the house with my daughter, with Chewy, and we just a lot of days, and it was right during the middle of the pandemic, so nothing was open except the parks, which thank goodness most days we had good weather, so we could go run around. But I mean, how long can you stay at a park when you have to be gone for 8 hours a day? So my entire work schedule, my entire routine has not been the same since the beginning of May. And I've been really thrown off by all of that. It's been really hard because not only that, half my office has been packed up. And now I don't even have an office yet because we're still unpacking here. So my point in saying all of that is the process, even though transactionally, the admin side of things, it went very smoothly, very, very, very uncomplicated on that front. The living situation, the transition, it's messy and it's chaotic. And it's messy and chaotic even though the final destination, which is getting in the home, our new home that I am sitting in right now, doing this podcast. It's mostly empty still. Even though that end game is what we want, and it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be perfect when it's all final, the process to get there is not always smooth and easy. And I want you to hear that as it relates to self-love. Going on the Irresistible You journey is not rainbows and sunshine. You have these pockets of aha moments, and you have these moments where you have these like epiphanies and these growths, these moments of growth and development. But to get there, it takes you having to get messy, having to rip off the wet blanket, having to face your shit that you haven't wanted to face. And the reason you've been stuck, the reason you're in that old house, let's use the analogy, the reason you're stuck in the old house that you don't love is because you're not willing to figure out what it takes to get to the new house. It's the wet blanket thing. It's like you're not willing to rip the wet blanket off, to process your stuff, thinking that you're going to solve it in another diet. I'm like, okay, let me use the house analogy. Thinking you're going to solve it in a new set of curtains from Home Goods. And you're just putting curtains on the same shitty house that you didn't want in the first place. So it's the same thing, right? So to get where you want to be, it takes courage, it takes curiosity, and it takes the desire, the pressing nerve that's being hit, the desire to want to change because you know you deserve better. And the process is chaotic and it's messy. There's going to be stuff everywhere that you're unpacking, all the emotions, all the feelings, all the things about yourself that you've been running away from. You now have to sit in the middle of the floor and you have to unpack those boxes one by one. If you don't unpack those boxes, then they just sit there and they clutter up the house, and it's still going to piss you off and you're still going to be unhappy because you've got this stuff laying around that you don't know what to do with. It's the same thing with the journey, the Irresistible You journey. You have to unpack the mess. And then you have to decide, am I keeping this? Is this worthy of my new life? Is this worthy of my new home? Does this need to be donated to someone else who has less than I do that would like this? Or does this just need to go in the trash because this is done? So it's the same thing. So I've been processing my feelings too, you guys, around like stress. I feel stressed. I feel overwhelmed. And then I sit here and I give myself the guilt trip. Well, who do you think you are to be stressed out and overwhelmed? You just got a brand new house and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but listen, there's good stress and there's bad stress. It's still stress. Getting married is a beautiful, amazing experience, but it is stressful as all get out. Buying a home is a great milestone. It is exciting. It's happy. It's joyful, but it's stressful as hell. And so I have to do what I teach my students. I teach my students in the program. It's like, we can sit in the pain, we can sit in the stress, we can sit in the overwhelm, and we need to feel it, and we need to actually sit in it and not run away from it. What causes unnecessary suffering is the guilt and shame that you always want to pour on top of it. Oh, I can't believe I'm feeling this way. I shouldn't feel this way. No, you should feel this way. And you do feel this way, and guilting and shaming yourself about it is only causing more stress to compound on top of it. You're not supposed to feel good all the time. And I think that's what a lot of people get so wrong, is they think they're always supposed to feel happy or joyful, or they shouldn't feel stress about certain situations. Instead of just sitting in the mess and feeling what you need to feel. Stop adding on unnecessary feelings on top of it, which are the guilt and the shame. Okay? I've had these feelings, like, I'm going to be very honest with you. Last night is the first time I've cooked on the stove a home cooked meal in I don't know when, maybe the beginning of June, because and it was so funny because even my daughter, she was like, "Mommy, please make me tortillas and beans tonight, please." Like my 3-year-old, when I said, well, we might just order out, she was like, "No, please make me tortillas and beans." That's how, like, our family, like, we needed home cooked food. And that's what we had last night, and it was amazing, and she was just like in heaven. Because our whole move, everything got delayed by like almost 2 weeks. So the night before we were supposed to close, I threw away all the food. So I had given some family members some stuff, and then there was some, like the half-used jam or the half-used whatever. I threw all of that was in the fridge out because we were supposed to be out in the morning. And we weren't going to be able to move in because we were supposed to stay at a hotel over the weekend, and then we would move to the new house on Monday, and we wouldn't have a fridge. And, anyway, we haven't had like home-cooked food that's not a sandwich, that's not a snack, that's not DoorDash, in a very long time. I would say almost a month. Because then, even before that, we wanted to stop using the stove because I didn't want any more burn marks. I didn't want any more smells in the house. Like, we just wanted everything to be no more issues. Let's just be able to move out of this house. So anyway, sometimes your routine and your structure, it gets thrown off. And then you sit there and it's like, oh my God, I'm so like not creative. Like, this is me. I'm not in my routine. I'm not creative. I'm like, I need to sit down and work for 8 hours straight, and I haven't been able to do that, and this sucks. And, oh my God, what's going to happen to my business and this and that and the podcast? And it's like, listen, this is a season. That means it has an end. This is not the norm. This is not going to continue on for the rest of the year. This is just this little pocket of time. So you either lean into it or keep fighting against it. And it's the same thing, right? It's like you guys go through this too. Like, whatever's going on in your life, you try to fight it and expend all this energy that's not necessary, instead of just saying, okay, you know what? This is where I'm at right now. I would really like a home-cooked meal. I would really like to make better choices right now with my food. But right now, this just is where I'm at. And I'm doing the best that I can. And when you can look at your life situations as seasons and not the end-all be-all, like, oh my God, when is it ever going to, it's like, that's how it feels now. I kind of feel like, when is this ever going to be normal again? I know that it will. But you've got to give yourself some grace, whatever it is that you're going through. It's just a season. And especially right now, I think everyone's going through different seasons of things with COVID and the way things have been flipped upside down in our world. So give yourself that grace and know that whatever you're going through, this is a process. It's a process. You can't have everything all at once. You can't do everything all at once. And I think for a lot of you that have the all or nothing mentality, I do speak from experience here, when you have an all or nothing mentality, that's going to be really important for you and your journey, is to recognize this is a process. And that's frustrating for me because whether it's my business or my personal life or this home process, I always am very clear about my vision. I have a very clear vision about what I want for this house, what I want for every single room. And I just want it now, and I want it finished, and I want it done. And I know that that is not possible because that is not realistic. It takes time. And what I mean by that is, so the home that we bought it's a beautiful layout. It is in impeccable condition. It's had the same owner since they built it, and they have taken extremely good care of the house. The bones and the structure is great. Aesthetically, there's a lot of things in the house that we don't like, and we knew that. And when I say aesthetically, it's simple. Like, I'm using air quotes. For any of you that have bought a house, you understand this. Simple things. Painting. Okay? Everything in the house is green and brown. Cool. If that's your thing, it's not ours. Okay? I like a much more bright, airy, white, cream, open concept with my paint. And I'm not down with the green and the brown. It's just not my thing. And y'all know my office has to be in my signature purple. So the house has to be painted. That is a very simple thing to do, but it's time consuming. I work, my husband works, we have a daughter, and I'm pregnant. So we have a lot of variables going on that we can't just bang all that out in one weekend. Okay? We got the family room painted over the weekend, and we thought we would do the entire kitchen over the weekend. Well, that didn't happen. Because sometimes things take longer than we give them time. And you don't always factor in your energy. So when you're creating timelines for yourself about, I want to be at this point at this time, and I want to look like this, or I want to feel like this, or you're not building in real life situations to that timeline in most cases. And I think that happens a lot, like with your weight. Well, I got to lose 50 pounds by September 1st. It's like, okay. And is that realistic? And are you taking into consideration your energy, life, what's going to get thrown at you? Because things always take longer than we think. That's kind of the thing here at the house. It's like I have a very clear vision for every single room of what I want. And it's getting me frustrated, and I have to check myself because of those things. Like, we have work schedules to balance. We have, kids to deal with. I'm pregnant. I literally put like a couple things away in the kitchen, and I have to sit down and take a break because my body is just like, it's awful. Like, I'm feeling it really hard this time. And we'll get there. And even if I look back a week ago, because we've now been in the house for 1 week, when I look back a week ago, like, we're making progress. We're getting there. And so it's just little things. So we haven't fully moved in because we have to finish painting. We're going to replace some flooring in some of the rooms, update the countertops. We did move into our kitchen, even though we know we're going to do some updates with the cabinets and the countertops. That's fine. So it's like, the other thing too, right now, there was a lot of furniture a lot of our furniture was just like not even worth bringing here. We needed a lot of new things. And furniture is backed up because of COVID, because the factories were closed for so many months that there's some furniture that we've had our eye on. It won't be available till the end of September. So that's frustrating. And I know first world problems, but they're still my problems at this time. And that's the thing. That's the other thing. That's that added guilt and shame where you go, oh my God, first world problems, when you're feeling a certain type of way, but they're still your problems. And I want you to own that we all go through big ups and downs and issues and problems, right? And sometimes the problems are small compared to things other people are going through. They're still your problems. And you shouldn't feel guilty or shameful because you're upset that you can't get a dining room table until the end of September. Own it. Own it. That's you should be pissed off. You should be. But then you just have to accept it of okay, it's going to be September. This is just the world that we're in right now, right? So I just want you to grasp the concept that you can't do it all at one time. And that's whether it's the house situation or whether it's your Irresistible You journey. When my girls come into the program, one of the first things I have them do is a future self exercise where they write down a letter to themselves describing who they want to become. And I mean in detail. And that is like the North Star, the compass around, okay, the actions that you're taking today, is this what your future self needs to do in order to be where you want to be? And then sometimes that can be frustrating because you have this clear vision of who you want to become, but you can't become her overnight. You can't become her in 4 weeks. It's a process. So even though you have a crystal clear vision, which you should, because that is what guides you to make the decisions that you're making. If I didn't have a crystal clear vision of what I want for our home, I wouldn't know how to make decisions right now. So you need to have that vision, but then you need to understand that it doesn't all happen at one time. It's a culmination of your actions that eventually you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, look how much progress I've made. And through the process, especially in the self-love journey, because it can be exhausting, because you're addressing things you've never addressed, you're unpacking things you've never unpacked, you're ripping off that wet blanket, and you're stepping out of your comfort zone to get to the place that you want to be so that you can be comfortable. And through that process, you have to give yourself some grace. You have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself time. You know, if you're having a day where you're just like not feeling it, let yourself take a break. And that's kind of something I've had to do in this moving process is, you know, I've never moved before at 20 weeks pregnant. What is that? 5 months. And I'm like really pregnant right now. And I'm feeling it. And I'm trying to be very cautious because I had a really big scare at the beginning of this moving journey where I overdid it one night. I was lifting furniture. I was very early on in the pregnancy, so I didn't really think anything of it. I was lifting furniture. I was shampooing carpet, which is a very heavy repetition back and forth, and doing all these things. And I started spotting. I never spotted once my last pregnancy. I was terrified. I sat in the bathroom and I cried because I was so scared of what I thought something bad was happening. And come to find out, I just overdid it. And so that has really kind of put the brakes on me. Like, okay, like check yourself, girl. Like you can't do it. You can't go hard right now like you usually do. And not feeling bad about it. It's like, I'm pregnant. I shouldn't be going hard right now. Right? And so like giving myself breaks, it's like I unpacked the kitchen. It took me more than a day. I thought I would have it all done in one afternoon. I didn't. And not feeling bad about it. It's like, okay, yeah, it took a little bit longer than I thought, but it got done. And now it's done. And it's okay. So how do you give yourself these little breaks, these little pockets of time, you know, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it is going on for you? You've got to give yourself those little breaks, you know, and not feeling guilty about it. Not feeling guilty about it. So we moved into a home that has an in-ground pool. And it's a beautiful in-ground pool. And it's so tempting to see that out the windows and just want to go swim all the time. And my daughter, of course, she is just like so pumped and excited to have that. She's a little mermaid. She loves the water. She's such a little mermaid. And taking breaks. We're like, we bought this house with a pool for a reason. I'm not going to sit here and go hard all day long, all day long, all day long, and not take advantage of what we got this house for in the first place. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, give yourself those breaks. And I want to talk about that too. Because that's also like some of that guilt. So my husband and I, ever since I can remember, we're such water people. We have always wanted a house with a pool and a boat. And we would watch people, there's this place that everybody goes to on the weekends here, and they kind of like tie all the boats together and everybody kind of parties it up. And just a good time. And we would watch people from the shore and we're like, man, I wish we could do that. That looks so awesome. And it would be like, well, someday we're going to have that. Or we would go somewhere like on vacation or a friend's house. Like, man, I just wish we had a pool at home. And for a few years when Catalina was first born, we had like those little blow up pools in the yard in the summer and stuff. And I was like, I wish this was just like an actual pool. And we had the yard with the chairs and all. Like, we would just always talk about these things. And I've found myself having these little pockets of time where I feel guilty. Because if you watch me on Instagram, I've been sharing a lot of our move-in stories, a lot of our pool, of just having fun, unpacking, doing all the things. I'm at Irresistible Icing. If you're not following me, you can check that out. And I've had these little pockets of time where I'm like, ooh, I hope I don't come across like braggy. And then I was like, no, fuck this. Like, we have worked this house, this life, this everything that I have right now did not happen by chance. Okay? It happened because 10 years ago, I wanted to punch myself in the mirror because I kept telling myself someday. Well, someday we'll go to the place and have a boat. Someday we're going to have this house with a pool. Someday we're going to have this. Someday I'll work for myself. Someday I won't have to answer to anybody. And fuck that. I'm not going to sit around and feel guilty because I want you guys to hear this because I want you to feel inspired by this. This house, the material things, they're just material things, but they are things that we have wanted for so long, and they didn't just happen. They didn't just happen. My life, people tell me, oh, you're so lucky. You get to work from home. You get to be with your daughter. You get to do this. You get to do that. And it's like, I don't get to do these things. I'm not lucky because I work from home and I answer to myself. This happened because I reached a breaking point. I reached a breaking point 10 years ago where I got sick and tired of hearing myself talk. I got sick and tired of hearing myself saying, well, someday, someday, someday. Someday is not in the 7 days of the week. So you either create a plan to get to the things that you want, or you keep sitting around feeling jealous of what everybody else around you is accomplishing. Those are your choices, and that's it. This Irresistible University did not just happen. It was a vision that came to me. It was a passion that's in my bones. And I have worked my ass off for the last 10 years to make this become a reality. And I'm still not where I want to be completely. If you don't put yourself out there and create a plan and start taking actions that move you towards that plan, you won't get there. And so when I talk about an irresistible life, it's not about just loving yourself and what you look like. It's so much bigger than that, you guys. It's about creating the irresistible life that you crave. The irresistible life that I craved was me not having to answer to some asshole. Was me not having to go work a 9 to 5 for somebody to have a glass ceiling that I'll never be able to cap, that tells me you can only make this amount of money for the rest of your life as long as you work here. That for me was suffocating. That for me personally was not an irresistible life. Staying in our old neighborhood and our old home was not me living up to my vision. And I'm not even done with this house, you guys. This is still a stepping stone. So an irresistible life, it starts with your self-love. It starts with your ability to drop the emotional weight, because that is not just holding you back from wearing a fucking pair of shorts. It's holding you back from living the life you crave. It's holding you back from your dream house. It's holding you back from your dream career. It's holding you back from your family. It's holding you back from what you really want for yourself. It's not about your legs. It's not about your fat rolls. It's not about a pair of shorts. It's about holding you back from the life that you know you could be living. I saw this crystal clear years ago. I saw myself sitting in an office overlooking a pool. And what do you think I'm looking at right now? I'm sitting in a room overlooking my pool in my backyard because I had a vision, and it wasn't luck. It didn't just happen. It's called intentions. And when you love yourself enough, when you have self-worth, when you have self-confidence, then you believe that you deserve what you get. Because the old me would have never believed I deserved to be here. And even now, I just told y'all, I have to check myself where I was like, well, I hope I'm not sharing too much. It's like, no, fuck this. I deserve this. I created this. I built this. My husband and I, like, we made this happen. We don't work in bubbles. We work together. We're a team. Like, we made this shit happen. And we have been through some shit over the last 10 years, too. We aren't handed things. Nothing has been handed to us on a silver platter. You know, it's like, I'm not going to sit around and feel guilty because I'm living out my dreams. Because the old me, that was how I used to feel. I had to stifle myself. I had to be quiet. I had to play it small. I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to offend anyone else that might be struggling. No. If you are struggling, I want you to hear all of this as inspiration and motivation to go out and create what the fuck you want for yourself. To stop sitting around letting your weight and letting how you think and feel about yourself stop you from living the life that you know you're supposed to be living. Because if you haven't gotten anything out of 2020, I sure as hell hope you have gotten the message loud and clear that we don't have a lot of time. Life just goes. You know this. We don't have a lot of time here. And look how quickly a pandemic can sweep in and take people's lives. So how much longer are you willing to sit around and tell yourself, well, someday I'll have this, someday I'll feel like this, someday. And what you're doing is you're convincing yourself that if you could just lose your damn weight, somehow you'll have everything that you want. Somehow you'll have the house, you'll have the job, you'll have the family, you'll have the life, you'll have the lifestyle. It doesn't happen because you want it. It happens because you have a vision and you are intentional about the actions that you are taking. That's how it happens. That's exactly how it happens. You know, I used to hear all the time when I was younger, you're never satisfied. Nothing ever satisfies you. No, I'm never satisfied. You're damn right I'm never satisfied. I'm content, I'm happy, I'm grateful, but I am never satisfied with mediocre shit. I love the house that we bought. It's beautiful. I love our yard. I'm not satisfied stopping here, guys. Because for me, feeling satisfied and just like accepting, like there's no growth in that. There's no growth in that. So you either need to decide that you're okay sitting around giving yourself the false promise of someday, or you're going to create a vision for yourself about what you really want for yourself, and you're going to get intentional about taking imperfect action to get to that goal that you have for yourself. And the goal for yourself better be bigger than losing a bunch of fucking weight. Losing weight, cool. But your vision is bigger than weight. And the weight has been a mask for you to not go after what it is you want. That's what this whole thing is about with Irresistible You. It's about the fact that you have used your weight and your ups and downs with weight loss as a shield and a mask from what it is you really want for yourself. Because as long as you're on the struggle bus with your weight, you don't have to deal with everything else. And that's why Irresistible You is so much bigger, so much better, so much more than a stupid ass diet or weight loss program. Because what it is about, it's really about designing the life that you crave. And you can't design the life you crave when you hate yourself. You can't design the life you crave when you don't think you deserve it. And if you don't have any self-worth, if you don't have any self-love, you sure as hell aren't going to think you deserve anything good for yourself. It's why you have bullshit toxic relationships. I'm just spitting truth, and you know it's true. This is why you have a shitty job that you don't love. This is why you go to work and deal with abuse from your boss, because you don't think you deserve better. And you're terrified to put your notice in and go somewhere else. So rather than go somewhere else and see what's out there waiting for you, you're dealing with a bunch of bullshit from people that they don't care about you. You're just a number to them. So emotional weight and weight is not about the weight. It is about so much more. And that's why I always say it's like it's infiltrating every other pocket and facet of your life. Because it is. It's stopping you from taking those chances. You're building up stories about, well, if I quit this job and I go to another one, you're creating this whole bullshit story about what that's going to mean. Just like I created a bullshit story about how hard it would be to sell a house and buy another one in the same transaction. Easiest thing I've ever done. So what other stories are you creating about yourself that maybe if you just took a chance, it wouldn't be as bad as you think it is? You create stories about why you can't go horseback riding, why you can't put a bathing suit on, why you can't go on vacation. Meanwhile, you're playing it small, you're living a mediocre life, and you're jealous and envious of everybody else around you that's moving on and being successful with their life. When you could have the same thing. Everybody could have the same thing. But you have to understand the process. Again, to recap, it's chaotic, it's messy, and you can't do it all in one time. You can't do it all right now. It is a process. It is a journey. And you have to give yourself grace around that. It was 10 years ago that I sat in my old office at my old company and was like, fuck this. I can't do this anymore. And it was like that moment where I was like, I'm sick of this someday shit. I'm sick of it. And I saw the writing on the wall. Like, if I stay here, there's no future here. I can be doing so much more right now. And it has been hard. It has been scary. It has been challenging. It has been rewarding. It has been blissful. It has been all of those things that make it chaotic and messy and beautiful all in one. But you have to be willing to take a chance on yourself. You have to be willing to bet on yourself for the first time ever. You have to be willing to face yourself and the things about yourself that you don't love, that you've been avoiding for so long. You have to be willing to unpack those things and decide what you want to do with them. Because honestly, it's not your boss. It's not your shitty relationship. It's none of those things that's holding you back. It's you. It's you. And maybe that's hard to hear, but when I hear that, I see that as the most empowering statement I could ever absorb. If I go, wow, okay, if I'm the person holding me back, that means I'm the person that can put me forward. And that is so liberating and freeing and empowering of like, I can do anything. I can literally do anything. And it all starts with loving yourself, guys. All of it. It all starts with loving yourself. That is why self-love is not some frivolous, woo-woo bullshit thing. That's where it all comes from. When you love yourself and you have self-worth and confidence, you're willing to take chances. You're willing to push yourself to the limit. You're willing to see what you're made of because you know you deserve it. And you also know that you're not attached to the outcome because it doesn't always look how you think it's going to look. And when you're confident, confidence doesn't just happen. Confidence comes in actions. And it's the ability to be confident to make a decision, to take imperfect action, and not be tied to the outcome. Because it's not always going to go perfectly exactly how you planned. That's for sure. That's for sure. So, on that note, I am back weekly with the podcast. Even though I am sitting in a big empty room, I am working from a card table, you guys, because I have a new desk that I have ordered. We had to get rid of the old desk. It was literally falling apart. And I'm still here. Like, I'm committed. I will be doing the podcast weekly. We are still, I'll be back to taking confidence calls next week. So if you're interested in joining the program, the Irresistible You coaching program, which is 100% online, if you are interested in finding out if that would be a good fit for you to enroll, I will be taking calls next week back on a regular schedule for that. So I will put the link in the show notes. You can definitely register, sign up for a call. Let's see if you're a good fit. Let's get you in the program. That is really it, guys. I'm going to get back to it. This will be posted up in the losing my train of thought here, the Irresistible You podcast discussion group. That is our free group on Facebook. So if you haven't joined, please request to join. The link is in the show notes. Request to join the group. That is where we have discussions about the weekly podcast episodes. You can share other things as well. We have discussions in there all the time around Irresistible You, emotional weight, confidence, all those kinds of things. So make sure that you do that. And if you're not following me on Instagram, please give me a follow at Irresistible Icing. I share daily stories. That is the best way to keep up with me, to keep in touch, to communicate. You can message me there as well. And that is it. I'm going to get back to it. We're going to keep unpacking, ripping down 90s wallpaper borders, and getting this house the way that we want it. So I hope you guys are doing great. Have an amazing week. Until next time, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.